Welcome everyone. It is 6 o'clock on the dot. So we're going to get this webinar started. My name is Jaron Kleber. I will be your host this evening, and I am the National Sales Manager for the Repair Shop of Tomorrow. So before we get going, just wanted to give everyone quick little background about who I am, so that you have a little bit of information about myself. So, um, been in the automotive industry my entire life. Actually started working in Napa Auto Parts stores when I was 12 years old. For my parents, they owned some stores in the Southern Illinois area. Um, so spent a lot of time stocking shelves and sweeping floors and doing all that fun stuff. And then fast forward to went to college, graduated college, and started to work for Napa Auto Parts. So for the last 12 years, pretty much my entire professional career, I was working with the Napa corporate team. And the last 6 years, I spent as the regional sales manager for Napa Tracks. In that role, I was able to manage a sales team and was really blessed that I got to travel the country, work with all of our great auto care centers, and help them on best practices and really coach them on how to run a more efficient and profitable repair facility. So fast forward to this year, got hooked up with Dave Justice at Repair Shop of Tomorrow. And I'm just extremely excited to be here tonight to tell you a little bit about how we're going to help you guys drive profits through the labor side of your business. So just a quick backstory on the company Repair Shop of Tomorrow. It was actually founded in 2015. David Justice is our president. Dave has over 35 years of experience in the automotive aftermarket, and just like most of you on this call, Dave was a Napa Auto Care Center. He owned 3 stores in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and in 2015, he was he was able to sell his stores to Big Box. Came in and offered him to buy his stores, and Dave really wanted to focus on how he could give back to the automotive aftermarket, and that's when he founded Repair Shop of Tomorrow. And our goal at Repair Shop of Tomorrow is to help shop owners unlock their full potential. So earlier this year, really the beginning of 2022, we were blessed with being announced as Napa Auto Care's only endorsed coaching and marketing company. So we take that distinction with a lot of pride, and we're very happy to be, again, the only endorsed coaching company that Napa Auto Care is working with. So built by shop owners for shop owners. We're pretty unique, whereas all of our coaches that we have are still current shop owners, and they're also clients of our program. And Dave coaches them just like they coach our clients. So just wanted to briefly give you an introduction of myself and a little bit about the company. But tonight's webinar isn't about Repair Shop of Tomorrow. This isn't a sales pitch at all. This is simply an educational webinar that we want to put on. And again, our topic tonight is driving profits through the labor side of your business, which we feel is the most important side of our industry right now. So before we get going on the topics here, I'd just like to talk about the state of the automotive aftermarket, excuse me, as we see it right now. So you can see some statistics here on the screen. 900,000 technicians in working service here. We could probably all agree that could probably be about 1.8, 1.9 million. We know that we have a technician shortage across the country. The real scary thing is that when you look at the average age of our technician, it's about 56 years old. So those are some alarming numbers that I think we all need to pay attention to. But I want you to focus on some of the real positive stuff here. There's over 290 million vehicles on the road, and the average age of those vehicles is 12.1 years. And you can see the market is still heavily a do-it-for-me market. So, why is it important to look at, the average age of the vehicle is 12.1 years when we're talking about a labor webinar. Well, think about how many miles those vehicles have on those cars, and think about all the opportunities that you have for service and for maintenance on those vehicles. So the industry, we believe, is really healthy. There are some scary things maybe coming. If you watch the news, it may seem like doom and gloom is coming, but overall the marketplace is healthy, and we're really positive about what we see going forward. But there's one thing I always bring up. I think we can all agree that running an automotive shop in 2022 is not the same way it was 30 years ago, 10 years ago, and really even 5 years ago. So the last 18 to 24 months, I would say, if I polled most of our shop owners, most would say that it's been a very successful 12, 18, 24 months. But the only thing I want to challenge you on here is, if you're seeing increase in sales, if you have record car counts, I just challenge to ask yourself, what have you done differently to achieve the results that you have seen over the last 14, 18, 24 months? Or is it simply just a byproduct of the aftermarket we're in, right? New car sales are way down. People have gotten money from the government. Car counts are way up. But just think about this as we go through this webinar. What have you done differently to achieve those results? And what are you going to do moving towards the future to make sure that you continue to have that success? So here's our key topics we're going to talk about tonight. The first thing we're going to talk about is your posted labor rate set appropriately to make your desired labor gross profit? Next thing we're going to talk about is, do you know what your technicians truly cost you per hour? We're going to spend quite a bit of time on knowing what your effective labor rate is. Better yet, if you know what it is and it's not where you want it to be, do you know what you need to do to improve it? And then the last thing we're going to talk about is, are you utilizing a labor matrix? So here's the 4 key topics we're gonna discuss on tonight's webinar. But before we get moving right into it, we're in a unique industry. The internet has really changed the way our consumers behave, and everyone thinks that they're an expert, and they think they know better than you, when in reality, we all know that there's a reason they come to you. So I like to inject a little bit of humor into our presentations here. So some of you may have seen some cars come through your facilities that look like this, right? Everybody's friend is a mechanic, and they know what's wrong with their car, and they want to tell you, how to fix it. And then here's a good one. I've seen a version of this sign in shops across the country, but you have your posted labor rate here, and then of course $185 if you watch and ask questions, $275 if you worked on it first, and then my favorite is $325 an hour if you and people in online forums tell me how to do my job. So again, I put a little humor in here just because these are things that you all face every single day. There's nothing worse than having somebody come in and tell you how you need to fix their car, right? So, but just know, you all are the expert. You all have the training, and that's why your customers are coming to you. So don't be afraid to charge them the appropriate amount of money for your services. And that's what tonight's all about. So setting your labor rate. I get this question all the time about clients we work with. In my previous role with Napa Tracks, Jaron, what should my labor rate be? And a lot of times it's followed up with, well, what's the guy charging down the street? And folks, I'm here to tell you that there is no silver bullet for what your labor rate should be. And here's why. There are many factors at play in determining the labor rate in your shop. So the first thing we need to figure out is, what is your break even point? So I've worked with, like I said, I've worked with hundreds of shops currently in my previous role. And unfortunately, when I pose this question, a lot of times I kind of get the blank stare looking back at me like, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, or no, I really don't know what my break even point is. Uh, and as a business owner, that's pretty scary. You know, how do you know what you need, where you need to be, or how do you know where you need to go if you're not sure what it costs to keep the lights on? So we need to figure out what your break even point is. Once we have an idea of what your break even point is for the month, then we can start to work backwards. Of course, if we know what it is for the month, we can figure it out for the week, we can figure it out for the day, and now we can finally figure out what's your break even point per hour in the shop that you're open. So once we have that determined, here's the next step. What is the desired gross profit amount you want to make? Okay, so once you figure out your break even point, if you want to make 65% gross profit on your labor, then you need to set your labor rate accordingly to hit those metrics. Now, we have clients across the country that are anywhere between 62 and 75% on their labor. But the point I want to stress here is it's not cut and dry. There again, to go back to the first point, there is no silver bullet what your labor rate should be. You really have to take a look at your business, you have to take a look at your cost, and you got to figure out, what gross profit amount do I want to make? And be a professional. You deserve to make a good living. So make sure your labor rate is set appropriately. The last thing when I talk about labor rates that's important is, you got to internally look at your business, and you have to figure out, does your business reflect the labor rate you are charging? Now, if you want to charge $150, $160 an hour, which I know shops all across the country that are charging that, and some charging more, okay, what does your business look like? If I walk into your shop, do you have the coffee pot that's been on for 5 days with stale coffee? Do you not have a clean waiting room? Do you not have Wi-Fi? Do you not have loaner cars? Okay, if you don't have any of those things, you're going to have a hard time collecting $150, $160 per hour on your labor. Now, on the flip side, if you walk in, if I walk into your shop and it's pro imaged on the outside, and it's got the pro office, and it's got the Wi-Fi, and it's got the chargers, and you're offering some sort of concierge service where you're picking up and dropping off cars, and you have loaner cars available, you are now giving your customers an experience. Okay, and customers today more than ever will pay for an experience. Of course, you still have to do the work. You still have to, you still have to fix their vehicles. But there's a reason people go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse. They make a really good steak, but the experience is phenomenal. So my point here is, you know, if if your facility maybe isn't up to snuff, and it's not, it maybe isn't garnishing $150 an hour, then we need to take a look at that, because again, this is a professional business. We all need to be charging the right amount of money. And again, your business needs to reflect the labor rate that you are charging. So when it comes to determining your labor and your technician's cost, unfortunately, a lot of times, this is calculated wrong when we work with clients, and I've in the past and currently. So here's how we look at it: your labor slash technician cost, and we will look at it loaded, should not exceed 20% of your gross sales. So what does loaded labor, loaded technician cost mean? Well, that's not what you pay them an hour, right? This includes what you pay them plus the company's portion of the taxes and the benefits that you're providing to them. So when you're looking at your technicians, labor, your cost, you need to look at viewing your available labor hours the same as you would a part on your shelf. At the end of the day, what you're really selling in an automotive shop is blocks of time. You are a labor factory. So you only have approximately, depending on the hours you're open, 8 hours of labor to sell per day per technician. So we always need to be looking for ways to improve productivity and efficiency so we can maximize those 8 hours a day. So we have this little shop formula that we go through with a lot of our clients, and when we're talking about labor and tech cost, um, again, we're talking about 20% of weekly sales. So, you know, you can take this back to your shop and you can go to your SMS and you can look at your gross sales. Okay. You times it by 20%, 0.20, and that should be your desired weekly tech cost. So in this scenario, this example, our weekly gross sales were 16,965 times 20%. Our technician cost in this scenario should not exceed $33.93 per week. So I talked about understanding really your true technician's cost. Again, it's not just an hourly rate. We have to look at payroll taxes, workman's comp, and of course, any benefits that you provide to these technicians. Um, the society that we live in right now, the job market that we're in, you know, it's a lot of people are really looking for that work-life balance, and they're looking for benefits, and those things matter. So when we're hiring and we're you know, putting ads out for techs, we need to include those things. But we also need to make sure that when we're putting our technicians pay into our shop management softwares, that we're putting it in there at a loaded cost. And here's what that looks like. So we have a sheet that we provide to our clients. Again, this isn't a sales pitch. You can take something like this, you can use your SMS, and you can start to build this out on your own, and you could start implementing it tomorrow in your shop. So in this example, this technician's hourly rate is $30 an hour. On this sheet, anything that you fill in the dark gray boxes, health, life, disability, uniforms, vacation, lunches, all of that, then, you know, annually extrapolates out to monthly, weekly, all the way down to the hour. You see your taxes and your workman's comp in there. So you think that employee cost you $30 an hour, but when you start really looking at their loaded cost, you realize that's not the case. So this employee actually cost you $40 an hour. Okay, so if I have a shop management software and I'm using my shop management software to see how profitable my technicians are and where my labor profitability is, if I have $30 in there instead of $40, and that's per one technician, and that technician's working 8 hours a day, of course, easy math tells me that I'm miscalculating my profitability by $80. Okay, so $80 per day times 5 is 400, right, for the week, times 52 weeks in a year is $20,800. So if I don't have the data entered correctly into my shop management system, if I'm not thinking about what my true technician's cost really is, I'm really overstating my profit. In this example, for this technician, almost $21,000. Okay, so other cool thing that we have on this sheet is this analysis. We're able to put in what your desired labor margin is. In this case, it's 70%. Okay, and then our formula, our spreadsheet, tells us that that technician's rate needs to be $133.81. Now, of course, if we took that 70% and made it 75, the labor rate would go up. If we took that 70% and made it 65%, that labor rate would go down. So it's really important when you're setting your labor rate. The first thing we talked about is break-even point. The second thing then is we really got to figure out our technician's cost, because in most cases that I have seen, people are they're undervaluing the technician's true cost. And at the end of the day, they're looking at their P&L at the end of the month, and the numbers don't match, and they're confused as to why they're not making the amount of profit that they thought they should make. So that's our second step. We're very focused on, is really understanding what your technician's true cost is. So moving right along. In my opinion, there's the three most important KPIs for the labor side of your business are productivity, efficiency, and effective labor rate. So we're going to spend a little bit of time and touch on each one of these. So productivity. This one is interesting because a lot of people talk about tech productivity and tech efficiency, and there's some misconception about what each one of these mean. And a lot of times people think that they're kind of the same thing, and I'll show you why that's not the case. So when you're looking at productivity, you're actually looking at the build hours, all right, sold that week by that technician, divided by the clocked hours that they were actually clocking in and clocking out for the day. So a couple scenarios. If a technician is in your shop for 40 hours, they clock in, they clock out, they do their lunch. At the end of the week, their time card says 40 hours, and they bill 40 hours. Well, of course, they're 100% productive. But what if a technician is in your shop for 40 hours and they only bill 30 hours? Well, that means that technician is only 75% productive. And unfortunately, the national average of productivity in shops across the United States is about 67%. So, I'm not going to get into, technician pay on hourly versus flat rate. That may be a webinar we have at a later date. But the common misconception that I get a lot of times here is, the shop owner wants to penalize the technician for their low productivity. Well, I'm here to tell you folks that if I'm in the shop for 40 hours a week and you're only bringing me 30 build hours, that's not my fault as a technician. Productivity is not looking at the actual hours worked, okay? Productivity is looking at what was I able to bill to the customer versus how many hours was I working in the shop. Now, we like to measure productivity, of course, by technician, but we also like to look at the productivity of the shop as a whole. So we have a software called Labor Profit Management. It measures productivity, efficiency, effective labor rate. And if we're looking at that as a whole, and we see for the week, for the month, our technicians' productivity is over 100%, that data is telling us that we have plenty of work. We may be able to go out and hire another technician. Now, efficiency. Efficiency is 100% on the technician, because you measure efficiency by your build hours divided by the actual hours that they're working on the car. So you have a technician. He's able to bill 40 hours in the week, but let's say for whatever reason, it takes him actually 50 hours to complete those 40 hours. Well, obviously, that technician is only 75% efficient. We need to be able to coach them and figure out, okay, what went wrong? Why did this happen? The second scenario is one that we hope you all get to experience, that the technician bills 40 hours, but it only takes them 32 actual hours to complete the work, meaning that they are 125% efficient. Our goal for our clients at Repair Shop of Tomorrow is to have technician efficiency above 100 or 125% or above. Now, just some food for thought here. We're talking about technicians. We know we have some tech shortage issues. We know it's hard to keep people. It's just kind of a little bit of a different topic, but I would ask all of you to take a look at how you're doing it in your business and how are you rewarding or compensating your technicians when they achieve the efficiency levels, the productivity levels that you want them to achieve. People want to know what's expected of them, and they want to be rewarded when they do a good job. So when you're measuring productivity and you're measuring efficiency, our suggestion is that when those goals are met, the rewards are handed out towards your technicians, and everybody gets to share in the wins. Because in your shop, it shouldn't just be about you, the owner, winning. It's not about the one. It's about all of us winning, all of your employees winning together. That's when you start to see the profit increase, the efficiency and the productivity go through the roof. So the last important KPI, to me, the most important one, is our effective labor rate. So I like to use, again, a lot of real world examples. I would say going out, visiting shops and making client calls. When I pose the question, do you know what your effective labor rate is? I get about 50-50. 50% of the people say, yeah, I know what it is. They tell me a number, and the other 50% say, you know what, Jaron, I'm not really looking at that. I don't know what it is. And some people don't even know how to calculate it. And that's totally fine. That's why we're doing these educational webinars, so that everybody can get better. We can all learn together, and we can all rise up our industry as one. So what is it? Well, your effective labor rate is the dollar amount collected for your technicians' billed dollars divided by their billed hours. Okay, so we all have our posted rate. We all get that, right? But our effective labor rate is what we're truly collecting per billable hour. So here's some things you need to know about your effective labor rate. We want it to be within 10% of your posted labor rate. That should be your goal. Whether you're a client of ours, whether you work with another company, or whether you're just doing it on your own, we want you to have your ELR be 10%, within 10% of your posted labor rate. So if you're $100 an hour, I'm using that for simple math because I'm not a math whiz, we would want your effective labor rate to be $90. Okay, so once we figure out what your effective labor rate is, if it's not where you want it to be, how do we fix it? Well, the easiest way to have a positive impact on your effective labor rate is to start matrixing your labor. The last thing we talk about, or we're going to talk about tonight, is matrixing your labor. And so I'll get into that in a second. But if you need to improve your effective labor rate, matrixing your labor is the biggest thing that you can do to increase net profit on the labor side of the business. Last thing you need to know about it is what impacts it in a negative way, of course, is if you have service advisors discounting your services. So have them discount less, make sure they're charging properly so they can help you increase your effective labor rate. I would tell you something here that we really stress with all of our clients. When you have service advisors, the service advisor is the one employee in the shop that can single-handedly affect your profitability more than anyone else. So you're doing your DVIs, your techs are doing great DVIs, they're finding work, your service advisors, they're estimating the work. Before they price it out and call the customer, make sure you're using your shop management software to ensure that that estimate that you're getting ready to present to the customer is achieving the profit goals that you want for your organization. Talked about incentivizing technicians on productivity, efficiency. I think it's important that everybody is winning together. So we would suggest incentivizing your service advisors as well. But here's how we do it. We talk about incentivizing them on gross sales and net profit, because we don't want them giving away everything and then making a bunch of money on sales, but you not making money as the owner. So those are just a few little things that you need to know about effective labor rate that we think are really important to help you increase your profit on the labor side of the business. So I mentioned earlier, we have a software called Labor Profit Management. It measures effective labor rate, productivity, efficiency, and a few other things. The build week to date column and the effective labor rate column, standard 105.76, those are just screenshots from the LPM software. So you can see here we're looking at 3 technicians because we like to measure everything by technician. You can see their build work hours on the left-hand side, and then you can see each technician's effective labor rate. So in this instance, this shop is charging $105.76, okay? But their effective labor rate is $77.06. So they, for every billable hour, they're not collecting $28.70 in labor dollars. So let's look at that, extrapolate it out. So 84.2 billed hours for this week times the $28.70 in uncollected labor dollars means that this shop lost $2,416.54 in labor dollars in 1 week. Now, if we look at that over the course of the year, that's $125,660 lost in labor. Now, think about this in your shop. How many more sales, how many more cars, how many more services do you need to sell to overcome $125,000 in lost revenue? Okay, it's probably $250,000. So let's focus on fixing what we have in our business. Let's focus on improving our effective labor rate, because I'm here to tell you right now, you have the amount of cars you need to work on. Most of you are probably booked 2 to 3 weeks out. Okay, fixing your effective labor rate. It doesn't require hiring a new technician. It doesn't require investing a bunch of money in new equipment. What we need to do is we need to focus on how we can improve our effective labor rate. And you'll be surprised, because what you focus on tends to happen. Write down your goals, focus on those goals, share them with everyone in the shop, and let everybody reap the rewards. So this is just a quick little success story here, little quote from Ron Tenner, one of our clients, Sparks Tire and Auto out of St. Charles, Missouri. See that handsome fellow on the right hand side of your screen? That's Mr. Tenner. His quote here is, effective labor rate is the most impressive part of this program for me. Every dollar that we can gain in this area is another dollar per hour straight to the company's bottom line. I feel that this is most likely the one number in the everyday operation of most shops that the owner is unaware of. Real eye opener. Now, full disclosure, Ron will tell you, Ron and Dave served on the Napa National Auto Care Board in 2011, 2012. Ron's always been a big numbers guy. but he was never looking at effective labor rate until he met Dave, and they started talking about effective labor rate. You know, Ron was low. He was under $100 per hour in his effective labor rate. I won't give his exact numbers. But this year, Ron is consistently, and of course it changes, you know, sometimes week to week. But Ron's effective labor rate is consistently in the mid 100s, and it's been as high as 160, 170 per hour on more than one occasion this week. Okay, and why is that? Because Ron started focusing on how to fix his effective labor rate and how to improve it. And these are the results that he has seen. So we already talked about effective labor rate and how to the best way to increase it. And that's by utilizing a labor matrix. So the easiest way to create more net profit tomorrow is to start matrixing your labor today. All right. I'm going to show you here in a few minutes an example of our labor matrix, but I can't stress enough, folks. There's plenty of tools out there. There's plenty of education. There's plenty of, you know, BDG groups that you may belong to. Start talking with your peers. Start doing some research and really start to understand how to matrix your labor, why it's important, and start doing it tomorrow. Okay. Let's not wait until our car count maybe settles down and we realize we need to start making changes. Let's make sure we have this stuff tight now so that if we do start to experience maybe a decrease in car count, recession, all those bad terms, we're going to be okay because we're charging the right amount of money and we're collecting and making the amount of profit we need to make to survive. So a lot of you probably have parts matrices. You know, parts matrices have been around for years. But just like parts, our labor must be matrixed to achieve the net profit that your shop deserves. So from the labor side of the business and matrixing your labor, this is your biggest opportunity for growth as a shop owner. Unfortunately, it can also be your biggest opportunity for loss. Why is that? Well, of course, payroll, productivity, efficiency, all those things can drive down your profit dollar. So I want you to think about parts for a second. You know, there's some companies out there that just still hammer your parts matrix, and they really don't focus on the labor side of the business. But you know, again, we're Napa's partner. We love Napa. Obviously, Napa sells parts, but unfortunately, parts are starting to become a commodity. And that's just the reality of the world we live in. Rock Auto, Amazon, eBay Motors, CarPart.com, AutoZone, all these retailers put their parts out on the internet and they're shipping them directly to your customer and they're charging them, you know, 10% under list price or whatever the case may be. Hopefully, we've gotten away from letting those customers bring those parts to your facility and put them on for them. But nevertheless, we need to be focused on the labor side of our business because that's where this industry is going. Think about the 10,000-pound gorilla in our industry, the electronic vehicles. Okay, well, guess what? They're still going to need to be worked on. There's going to be a little bit less parts for us to replace, but we're going to still need to figure out how to work on these cars, and we will because that's what we do. We're professionals. We're going to adapt, and we're going to grow with the marketplace. But again, matrixing your labor to us, to me, is one of the most important things that I hope you take out of this webinar. So, what does matrixing your labor allow you to do? Well, the first thing is it allows you to make the money you deserve. You are 100% in one of the most challenging industries there is. Okay, the technology is always changing. Okay, people are bringing you stuff that they can't fix, that they don't know how to work on, but you do. You're a professional. We all need to start acting like we're professionals. and we all need to start making the money we deserve. Think about businesses that you frequent, restaurants, golf courses, the gym, whatever it is. Okay, those folks are in that business to make money. And just because you're an automotive shop owner, and maybe you were a technician before you became a shop owner, the end goal should be to make money as well. Now, I'm not telling you to matrix your labor to make a bunch of money, to put it in your pocket and go on 5 to 6 vacations a year. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is when you make the money you deserve, it allows you to reinvest in your business. It allows you to pay for your technician's training. Okay, it allows you to add tools and equipment to help better service your customers. Think about if you had another $100,000 in profit at the end of the year. What could you do to help your business, to help your customers have a better experience? A lot of our clients are going out now, and if they have the facility and the space, they're going in purchasing ADAS equipment, 70, 80, $90,000 worth of equipment. But guess what? Now they're able to keep their customers in their shop and not send them to a collision center or not send them to a dealer to have ADAS work done. Okay. If you're barely making it and you're putting $2,000 in profit at the end of the year in your business after you've paid yourself and everybody else, how do you expect your business to grow? How can you maintain that high level of experience? Because this industry is changing. There's been a lot of consolidations going on. And, they may not look like they're a dealer, but I can tell you a lot of these consolidations that are happening in our independent automotive aftermarket are being driven by dealers. They're buying independent shops. They're not saying that they own them, and they're coming after our customers. They're coming after your customers. So matrixing your labor, right? It's going to allow you to reinvest in your business. More importantly, it's going to allow you to reinvest in your people, to attract and, more importantly, retain good talent. Okay, we have to pay our technicians a good wage and then incentivize them when they go above and beyond our expectations. We've got to let our consumers know that we're a professional business and this is a career for my people. I have to help put food on their table as well as mine. And talent is something that, again, is one of the biggest challenges we're facing right now. But if you have the dollars, if you have the profit and you're making the money you deserve, you're able to provide them with benefits, to take them to cookouts, to do fun stuff with them. Just like customers want an experience, unfortunately, us millennials, yes, I'm a millennial, we want an experience as well in our workplace. So matrixing your labor, again, this allows you to do what's right for your customers and for your shop, and really improve the customer experience all across the board. And if we start matrixing our labor and we start making the profit we deserve, think about this. We improve our effective labor rate. We don't hire another tech. We didn't have to do anything different. We matrixed our labor. We got our effective labor rate in the right direction, and we started making more money. To me, that's the definition of working smarter and not harder. Kind of like this. I have 2 kids. I love them to death, but I'm sure we've all seen baby gates. Apparently, myself included, I've been using this gate wrong the whole time, right? So to me, that's the definition as a parent of maybe working a little smarter and not harder. So let's take a look at our labor matrix. Again, labor matrices, you can go out, you can put them in your shop management software, you can ask advice from us, from your peers, you may work with another coaching company, whatever the case may be. All I'm here to tell you today is that you need to start matrixing your labor when you get back to your shop tomorrow. This is an example of the repair shop of tomorrow labor matrix. This is our proprietary labor matrix that we've compiled with over hundreds of years of experience between Dave and all of our coaches. But I just wanted to show you the complexity of what we do from a labor matrix. most of the cases you'll probably see a matrix, and it's going to go maybe from like 1 to 10 hours, and you're just going to have a percentage markup across the board, and that's fine. Again, I just want everybody to start matrixing their labor when they get back to their shops if they're not doing it right now. But this is pretty complex. We're matrixing it at every 10th of an hour, from an hour to 19 hours. I wanted to show you guys this to just kind of give you a little peek behind the curtain of how we use a labor matrix. But I also wanted to highlight one of our vendor partners that we use, Napa Tracks. Of course, I told you all that I worked with Napa Tracks for 6 years. But Napa Tracks is, again, a great partner of ours. And in one of their future releases, they are going to have this labor matrix available to Repair Shop of Tomorrow customers. So I know we may have some clients on the phone, or excuse me, on the call. Wanted to share that news. And again, really just shout out Napa for their continued support, and choosing us as their partner, and really, making our products better together. So that's really kind of takes us really to the end here. I'm just going to hit the takeaways. We're right at about 45 minutes, and so we, our goal is to keep this under an hour, because we know it's tough to work in your shop all day and then come sit through a webinar. So we certainly appreciate it. But just to highlight our takeaways here, right? The first thing we talked about, making sure that your labor rate is set appropriately. The second thing we talked about is knowing your true technician's cost. Some action items for you all. Number one, when you're talking about setting your labor rate appropriately, go back to your shops and figure out your break-even cost if you don't know what that is. On your technician's cost, get with your accountant, your payroll, your bookkeeper, whoever it is, and really find out, what does your true technician cost you per hour? Once you figure that out, let's make sure we're putting that into your shop management software, so that when you're running your reports, you're getting accurate data. Third thing, productivity, efficiency, and effective labor rate. 3 most important labor KPIs. We measure them through labor profit management. However, all those numbers, I'm very certain you can pull them from your shop management systems. If you're using Napa Tracks and you're on this webinar, go to your sales register summary report. You're going to have to do some calculations, but you can figure out all these numbers on your own. All right. And let's focus on how we need to improve productivity, efficiency, and our effective labor rates. And then the last thing we talked about, matrixing your labor. I guarantee you, without a doubt, this will improve your effective labor rate and increase your net profit immediately. One thing I forgot to mention when we're talking about matrixing your labor, sometimes, we get, the question of, well, why do we do that, from a business standpoint, not really from a profitability standpoint. Mitchell, All Data, Motor, they're all called labor guides. Okay. They're just guides. They're not the gospel. So, those guides are set, for instance, Mitchell's is set, in Southern California. They have a new car. The technician has all the tools. They tell them to do the job. They time them and they hit go. Okay. We may have some people on here from the Rust Belt, all across the country. We realize that that's not the scenario we live in every single day. So, again, focusing on matrixing your labor will improve that ELR, and I guarantee you it will increase your net profit immediately. So the last thing, my 2 minutes here before we shut down, the goal here was to provide education to our Napa Auto Care family, and really just try to highlight what we think are some of the most important pieces of the business, and how to drive profit through the labor side of your business. Hopefully you found some tips along the way. The goal was that, we could provide you with the education, and that you could go back to your shop and start, working on these things immediately. However, Yes, we do offer coaching and consulting programs. So if there is something you saw here tonight that you're not sure how to do, or if you want some assistance on doing that, we build custom programs that are specific to your shop, to your goals, to your problems. Here's our two programs on the screen. We have a silver program and we have a diamond program. You can see that there's a little bit difference in cost. If you're interested, I'm not going to waste your time tonight, but we'd love to have the opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about what it is that we do for the Napa Auto Care Centers and for shop owners like yourself. With that, I just want to thank everybody for their time. Um, Again, it's something that we're looking forward to doing on a monthly basis. Hopefully we'll get some feedback, and if there's some topics and things like that that you guys are interested in learning more about, here's my information. Both phones ring towards me. The 440 number, you can dial, press 1 when that number rings. It'll get directly to me. You can find me on Facebook. Send me a message on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And again, just if there's something you guys want to see, we've already kicked around some topics. We're really going to try to host at least one of these a month, um, because our goal is about helping the industry rise together. So, a high tide rises all boats. We use that analogy a lot, and that's really what we're about. That's what we care about doing. This industry has provided for me as a kid, through my family with Napa Auto Parts stores, and now through my professional career, it's provided for me and the family that I've started. I'm very passionate about what we do, and again, just can't thank you all enough for your time. And if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. And be on the lookout, maybe in a couple weeks, for the next series in our Repair Shop of Tomorrow webinars. Again, thank you all for your time. Have a great night, and we look forward to hearing from you.